Most annoying song, but in spite of that, we love him and we worship him. It's my buddy, Richard Speight Jr. I don't know, I can't.
Rob wanted candy. Rob wanted candy. Rob wanted candy. Robert wanted candy. Yeah. I wish Rob hadn't left stage. They're literally my favorite thing that happens in our little world of humor is when Rob starts to sing a song and the band plays something different. It's a magic moment. Usually it's by accident. Sometimes it's by design. This time the band was messing with him. I had no idea. God bless the band. But it was this moment of Rob going, we're not gonna, okay, great, okay, great. God bless you laugh every time. And it happens, and it's always, that man can make something funny out of nothing. Comedy miner is what he is. You can mine it, find it. Anyway, I'm here, killing time. I'm the bridge between what's happening and what you desire. You have to get through me to get to the other side. Sorry. I am the troll under the bridge. But anyway, let's take some questions, shall we? Because here we are. You.
I have a very serious, hard-hitting question.
Okay.
Okay. Why do you always have that red windscreen thing on your microphone?
This is a question that might have to go to, that I would have to defer to Liz, but I think it's because, all of our microphones are on different levels or whatever, and I've always had this on there. It was always the host microphone, and I think it's how they use it to differentiate this from other guest mics and band mics and stuff originally. It's for the sound guys and sound team to know what it is, and also be able to see it backstage, because I end up setting it down and grabbing it more than anybody else. I think, or maybe, it's because they don't want my grossness all over their nice microphones. Could be a combo. Wouldn't blame them. At one point backstage today, Ruth was making a joke. She picked up my microphone and acted like she was going to bite it, or something like that. And I said to her, if you were to do that, we would have to rush you to a medical facility. We have no idea what's in this microphone. This windscreen has been on this microphone for a long time. I was hosting karaoke with this bad boy. This has been on for maybe a decade, I'm not sure. And I don't think they shipped this bad boy off to the dry cleaners between shows, you know what I'm saying? I have a feeling that this thing is just put in a sealed bag by somebody in a hazmat suit and taken to the next town. And then with, tongs placed on top of the microphone and everybody backs away slowly to be sure there's no chemical reaction. So luckily Ruth didn't off herself by touching the red tip of the microphone. But that's the best answer I got for it, because I don't really know the science behind it. I just know that it's mine, and when I see it, I'm territorial because it belongs to me. This is my microphone for 72 hours every time. And then it goes back to the wild. And maybe somebody at Vampire Diaries is using this too, which #who. But when it's not in my control, I don't know. But it's a good question. It's a thoughtful question. I appreciate that question. You.
Hi, Richard.
Hey.
So, if you were a tree...
Good. I know this because Ruth, who is a very funny person, but apparently didn't understand that when you make a practical joke on somebody, you're not supposed to go, oh, we told the audience to give you a bunch of questions, analogies, because you like them so much. Rob was like, what are you doing? We just set this up, and you just told him. If I were a tree, What kind of tree would I dogwood?
Why?
First tree that came to my mind. Thank you for your question. Yeah.
Hi.
Hey.
I noticed on the Kings of Con podcast you talk about REM a lot, and I really like REM. So what is your favorite REM album?
It's a great question. I'm a huge REM fan. REM was a very, very popular band before they were making albums in like the college circuit. And my sister, I have two older sisters. My oldest sister brought home a cassette tape of theirs from one of their shows at Vanderbilt University back when I was a kid. And me and my whole social group just became massive REM fans, and we're buying the vinyl when it would come out from Chronic Town, which is their first EP to every album. It's really, at this point in my life, it's really hard to say because I've listened to so many albums and I love them so much. But if I tap into Teenage Rich, and the album that I would turn to the most was Fables of the Reconstruction, which was the Driver 8, album, and It Can't Get There From Here, and it was just an unbelievable album to me, and it's such a great hybrid. They were such a unique band with such a unique sound, and ask me a different day and I'll tell you Murmur. Someday I'll tell you Out of Time. Like I just bounced around their whole catalog an awful lot. Even their last album, I obviously kind of prefer the stuff with Bill Berry on drums, and so it lost a little bit for me when the drummer left. Didn't change the great songwriting and stuff, but it just changed a little bit. It changed the dynamic. He was one of the background voices, and it had a lot of influence on them in the studio. So when he left, it did change the band. But their last, what's their Collapse Into Now? Their last album, Supersonic, Super Serious. It was one of my favorite singles they ever did. So they would still surprise me with stuff that sounded exactly like it should sound. And then I've got a live album of theirs that is just. They were so good live. They were such a, they were one of those bands that cut their teeth being a live act, playing colleges, living in a van and traveling the country and moving. They didn't have hits until they did, Losing My Religion, which was 13 albums in. They were just known by people, basically by word of mouth and college radio. They wouldn't get any radio play, so they really earned their popularity. Those fellas put in their time, and they're such a good band. If you're not familiar with REM, go on Spotify and click on an REM channel and just enjoy the journey because it's something else. And I loved how, if you guys are fans of Radiohead, Tom York recently, I don't think he said this recently, but I recently read the article where he talked about Michael Speight basically gave him the inspiration to be, he's like, because at the time it had been all 70s and 80s hard rock, and then REM came out, and Tom York, I'm quoting him, he said, oh my God, it's okay to be weird. It's okay to be different. It's okay to sing the songs that matter to you, not the songs you think you're going to sell. And so I think REM's influence on other bands is pretty amazing. I'll add one more little story here that's off topic, but about REM. My cousin-in-law, my wife's cousin, is a very successful furniture designer and does clothing stuff. He's the guy, if you listen to the podcast, we talk about him, Tyler Hayes. He has a store called M. Crow. He has a store called BDDW. And in fact, he made these pants and he made this jacket. Very talented guy. And he was having an event at his store in New York. He's from Oregon, but he lives has a store in Manhattan. And Michael Stipe was a fan of his furniture and was at the opening, which is he also is a big REM fan, so even though he's a successful, artist, he still gets, struck by famous people who inspired him when he was young. And his mom was visiting from Oregon, this tiny little town in Oregon, Aunt Sharon, and she ended up talking to Michael Stipe the whole night. And Tyler kept looking over, and there's Aunt Sharon and Michael Stipe just hanging out. And at the end of the night, they were finishing up, and Aunt Sharon came over to Tyler. She said, "Your friend Michael Stripes is the nicest young man. He's trying to be a musician, and I told him that that you're an artist, and it took you years and years. I told him just to keep working at it, keep dreaming, and keep pursuing your dream. And you never know what could happen." The woman had no idea who she was talking to, and Stipe was probably so charmed by it that he never outed himself as being a global superstar. And we still laugh about her going, "Michael Stripes is the nicest fellow." Anyway, what's your favorite album?
Mine is Automatic for the
Yeah, Automatic for the People. Love that album. Again, ask me a different day, Automatic for the People. It's a great album. Such a great album. So yeah, I mean, there's too many to pick from. Their catalog is too impressive, but that's a rock solid choice. Thank you for your question. Yes, you.
Hi.
Hey.
So speaking of setting things up for future panels, every few months I fall down the AO3 fan fiction rabbit hole.
The what?
The fan fiction archive of our own rabbit hole.
What is AO3?
Archive of our own. It's the biggest fan fiction website. So as we prepare to see Jared, the thing is, the most common pairing for Gabriel is Sam Winchester.
Right.
Can you give us your detailed thoughts on the matter that someone who asked him a question might be able to?
Oh, you mean the fact that people think that those characters could be a couple?
Yeah.
I don't have any detailed thoughts on the matter. I think being creative is awesome, and I think if characters that people watch on TV triggers some ideas or some journey or some sort of collaboration between characters that inspires them to write, draw, paint, sculpt, whatever, I think it's awesome. I kind of think the fun thing about fan fiction is it's by the fans, and it's inspired by characters they've seen in Supernatural, inspired by characters that we all have played, but it's bigger than that. It goes on, it is a balloon that has been released to the world, so it becomes its own animal, it becomes its own universe. And so I think it's anybody who gets inspired to sort of dive into the universe and tell whatever stories they want to tell, I think it's awesome. Thank you.
Hi, Rich.
Hey.
I absolutely love the Then and Now podcast.
Thank you.
On that note, do you have any favorite podcasts other than your own that you listen to?
Man, I'm really boring in the podcast world. I like, first of all, I love the advent of the podcast. Is really cool to me. I mean, it's so cool to be able to listen to things like that. I listen to, I'm behind on it, but I was listening to a lot of Malcolm Gladwell's revisionist history. I think his stuff is awesome. If you don't know Malcolm Gladwell, he's the author who wrote Blink and Outliers, and a really kind of, I don't know what you call him, social scientist of some sort. I mean, he's a really interesting guy. Not just a literary figure, but also a thinker and an interesting man with interesting perspectives and research. And so I listen to his podcast a lot. I love that. I listen to Morning Joe, the podcast, because I like the news. I'm a news dude. And so every morning, the ritual in my house is I wake up around 5:30 and I go clean the kitchen. That's how I start the day. Because usually I did not cook the meal, so I take the responsibility of cleaning it up. And so I wake up at 5:30 and I usually turn on Morning Joe as a news program, but then I also they also make it a podcast, you know what I mean? Like they take that news show and they make it an hour and they re-release it. It's a podcast. I listen to that every morning religiously to sort of get my dose of politics and the news. And then, what else do I listen to? This American Life. I'll do This American Life. I'll look at my phone to see what I listen to. I have a cheat sheet right here. This American Life, Stuff You Should Know, Radio Lab. I was listening to The Town, which was kind of cool. It was like a history of Hollywood, and I found that kind of interesting. More Perfect, which is kind of cool. It's like Supreme Court cases and how they affect modern times, and what the precedents were and that kind of thing. The Moth is really cool, and You Must Remember This, which is also about old Hollywood. I find that kind of stuff interesting. And that's about it. Everything else is kind of similar in that I listen to kind of what my wife thinks are kind of boring news-related. I do love those ones where people are telling personal stories, like This American Life and The Moth and that kind of thing. I find that stuff really cool and interesting to hear perspectives of other people. And I find that sort of zen to listen to that kind of thing. What do you listen to other than us?
I listen to mostly just Michael Rosenbaum's podcast. I love Inside of You. I love Talkville. And I also listen to Ear Biscuits, which is Rhett and Link's podcast.
So whose podcast?
Rhett and Link, Good Mythical Morning on YouTube. They have their own podcast, but they'll just...
Rhett and Link are two individuals who have a podcast, and they're from something on YouTube?
Yep.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't listen to interview shows really, as I sort of revealed. I just kind of listen to people tell stories or the news. But that's awesome. That's what's great about podcasts. There's an infinite number of topics to be explored. So thank you for listening to ours. Appreciate it. Yes? Hey.
If we were to get a hypothetical season 2 of Kings of Con, I know that you guys have said many times that a lot of that stuff is based on around real things that happen at cons. What would be something that has, and it's been a few years since we've gotten that, so is there any new material that you've accumulated from your many cons to pop into a new series?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that. Rob and I haven't. That's not something that's on our burner right now, so we haven't really thought about it. I don't know. I'm trying to think of anything. I feel like most of our shameful excursions were in the early years of convention going. I have to think about that. I can't remember if there's anything that has happened that's been as ridiculous as the early stuff. I'm sure there has been, but I'll think about it. I don't want to, rather than stand here in silence, I don't have anything on the top of my mind, but if it pops in there while we're doing this, I'll leap in and give you an answer, okay? Thank you for the question. You. Hey.
What's your favorite animal?
Say that again?
What's your favorite animal?
My favorite animal? It's a tie between Turtle and Luna. Turtle is my cat, and Luna is my dog.
Animal is a tiger.
Tigers are great. Please don't get one as a pet. But tigers are great. They are majestic and beautiful and powerful, and yet they also look like kitty cats, which makes them look docile and friendly and cuddly, which they might be, but don't try it. Do you like to draw tigers?
I don't know how to draw tigers.
I bet you will figure it out. It's kind of a fun thing to draw with the stripes and all that. It's really cool. How old are you? 4. That's awesome. There's a charity focused on children. Thank you for your question, young lady, and I can't wait to see your first tiger drawing when it happens. It's going to be awesome. Thank you. Hey.
So some of my favorite episodes of all time have been around the Trickster or Gabriel.
Right.
And they stand out to me more than anything, and I rewatch those all the time. And I'm curious how much improv or how much say have you had to put in some jokes in there, or even some backstory on how much fun you had on and off the screen.
Well, I've certainly enjoyed those characters tremendously. Like, I've said before, you almost never get a guest star role that's as rich and as deep and as layered as what I've been given, what Rob's been given, what Mark Pellegrino's been given. Like, these are unbelievable roles we got. And so it's a thrill to get to play something that has that dynamic, a backstory, that dynamic, an interaction with the characters, and is involved in the lore and all that. There's not a lot of hijinks per se, because it's so hard to get the work done. It's fun, but it's business at the same time. Improv-wise, not much. There'd be a couple of things that if I would find when I was studying the role that I felt like would be more appropriate for the character, I would change that line, but then it would stay the same. I wouldn't change it every time. It wasn't so loose that I'd be like winging it every time we did it. You know what I mean? It was a little different when I did Winchester's. I was a little more improv-y in that one, because it fit better to do that kind of thing. There was a scene with JoJo and myself where I was explaining to him what was going to go on, and I improv a lot of stuff about his resume and things like that I thought would work, and I ended up improvising a lot of stuff when I have all the kids tied up in that room too. But again, it afforded itself that because it wasn't conversational as much as it was my character just talking and explaining something. So within that framework, you can kind of play and still get to the point. You're not going to mess up somebody's response to you, which is always the danger. But the supernatural version of the stuff, it was, the writers did a pretty good job of laying out the map, the road map, dialogue-wise. And so, like I said, I'd make a change here and a change there. And backstory-wise, because I directed an episode that had Loki in it, the Unfinished Business, I was able to do things like I had them build his sucker case, because I thought, like, he doesn't think of candy as a funny, goofy thing. It to him was like having a cigarette after a meal, like he'd have his collection, So I was able to do things like that I thought sort of helped the character and fleshed it out a little bit further. But I was always very fortunate that I thought the stuff they wrote for the character was always on the money and always funny and unique. And like I said, I would bring my own spin to it a little bit, but it was never so far off the page that it was unrecognizable. It was always using the core content of what they created for me. And then I could just add flourishes here and there if I thought it would, make sense and make things better. And by the way, thank you so much. I appreciate your kind words about the character. Thank you. Right there.
Hello.
Hey.
So I kind of always thought it was a missed opportunity that there wasn't an episode made about the devil going down to Georgia, because we all know Nick is amazing as Lucifer, and there would have been so many funny jokes.
Right.
And I just kind of want to know what you thought. If you think that would have made for a really good episode, and if...
Well, I don't know exactly what the story would have been. Him going down to Georgia would have been a brief one, but the actual content of the story could have been interesting. Yeah, I just based on the gimmick of the song and then Devil going down there, it could have been humorous. Yeah, if they found a way to make it also work within the framework of the story, but it certainly would have been an obvious go-to, you know what I mean? And maybe, I don't know, maybe Mark plays fiddle, or we could have found that out. We could have discovered him an actual bluegrass fiddle competition. Yeah, that would have been funny. There's several things that, which, by the way, is impressive because they already did 330-something episodes, so they covered a lot of ground, but still, you never hit all the story points, right? You always leave some stone unturned, and, that would have been a good one. Sadly, they missed their shot. Dare to dream, you know what I'm saying? Dare to dream. Charlie Daniels would be proud. You, sir.
Okay, so my question is, and this is something that's back to me for a little bit, is how can you be Gabriel and the trickster at the same time?
Isn't that something?
Yeah, so did Gabriel just decide that he was going to take a break from heaven and then take on the role of the trickster? Because the Norse gods recognize you as the trickster the entire time that episode or whatever happens. So
yeah, it makes you wonder.
Question that, yeah.
Right? I'm with you. I mean, it's a real chin scratcher. No idea. But you know what? Somehow we pulled it off. But sorry, I don't have any in-depth one on that one. I just say the lines they hand me. But it fooled a lot of people for a while. You know what I'm saying? Perfect. Thank you. You.
So this is a question from my friend Sammy, who wasn't able to come down to the con this year, but you're her favorite.
Awesome.
So her question was, what's your favorite part of doing these conventions?
Favorite part of doing conventions?
Yeah.
Laughing with these guys. The thing I look forward to the most is starting every morning, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, coming on stage. Mainly Friday and Saturday, because Sundays is sort of a different design. The Friday and Saturday of coming on stage and goofing around with either the band or the band and Rob or the band Rob and Jason or the band and Jason, whatever the configuration is, that's my favorite part, is the laughs that we have, because we never talk about what we're going to do. We never have a game plan. We wing everything and surprise each other all the time. And I think, just to take this opportunity to tout the talents of these guys, I think it's easy to look at me with a microphone running around and being goofy and think, oh, he's either funny or annoying or both, but whatever it is, that's the energy I bring, and Rob too. But the expert musicianship of these guys, to follow along, to punctuate a joke, to see where it's going, to go that way, to read the room, to read the bit, and follow musically, is incredibly impressive. What they're able to do comedically with their instruments, aside from being great musicians, just in their storytelling, with their deadpan looks, or Mike being a robot, or whatever bit we're doing, and we've never planned it, so anything I do where they start playing and I start moving and they augment what I'm doing, it's amazing, and to me, that's the lifeblood of doing something improv-y and fun and interesting. Bringing people on and off stage is what I'm contractually obligated to do, because that's what I'm supposed to be doing, is getting people on and getting people off and keeping the show running on time. But what brings me joy is getting up on the stage in the morning and playing around with these guys, because they're hilarious and they're fun and they're good people, and I enjoy their company and I enjoy their talent. And I say this a lot in the meet and greets. I do everything we do for people. You know what I mean? I'm playing to an audience of 4, and then if the joke works and other people think it's funny, that's great. There have been plenty of conventions where we have walked off the stage knowing that no one enjoyed what we just did, but we're laughing our faces off. And you know what? We're okay with that. You know what I mean? You can't please all the people all the time, but every now and then you can please the 4 buddies you're with, and sometimes that sprinkles out to other people, and that's when it works really well, and it's really cool. Thank you. There was a time, one of my favorite band moments, we've had a lot of great moments, we played Washington, D.C. The first time we ever played Washington, D.C. And we were in a really weird, low-ceilinged room, and the green room, I kid you not, was the size of, like, it was a supply closet or something, like 4 guys could get in there and maybe kneel. And we decided it would be funny, as opposed to coming on stage playing a rock song, that the band would dress as our founding fathers and come up the middle aisle with Stephen playing. They had the white wigs and the 1776 outfits, and Norton was playing a snare drum, Mike was playing a fife, Billy was carrying a flag, and they'd come up here like, because it was Declaration of Independence, Continental Congress going on. And they came up and did this whole thing down the aisle. Got up here to the stage. Crickets. Crickets. It was, nothing. No response. You just heard the awkward of Billy putting the flag in the stand. And I was like, wow, this did not go well. And it didn't get any better from there. We reenacted the assassination of Lincoln. Billy was dressed as Abe Lincoln, and he shaved his mustache. He had the full-on beard and everything. And he, right before Misha's panel, we just reenacted his assassination. He sat here like he was going to the theater. He's like, I think I'll sit here and enjoy the show. And then we made a gunshot sound off stage, and he collapsed on the floor. And we're like, oh my God, the president was shot. And we ran out and dragged Billy off stage. Crickets, man, there's crickets. The bit died quicker than Lincoln. That's still one of our favorite things ever. We're like, man, it's like, this will go down as one of our favorite cons. Because we really, really pushed the envelope with the 877 thing, man. Like, this was how I knew we were onto something magic. Stephanie got complaints. When Stephanie gets complaints, then I know I'm doing my effing job. It's controversial. I got people talking. I think it's funny. Well, I don't think it's funny, and I didn't come here to listen to that song 60 times. The fuck you didn't. Because I decide what you listen to 60 times. And it's funny because when they come to me and they say, somebody complains, they know that all I'm going to do is go, yeah! I'm like, really, you're not going to change? Like, hell no, baby, we're in a groove. So that's how I know I'm in the pocket, you know what I mean, when I'm pissing people off. Anyway, that's a long answer to your question, but it's things like that. Like, this will bring us joy years from now. We'll talk about this weekend. That DC Con brings us joy. This is the joy. This is the joy for me. Thank you very much. You.
So I do several sports, and I was wondering, if you were a sport, which one would you be?
If I were a sport? Anything with balls. Thank you for your question. Yeah.
Hi. So my question goes along with Supernatural, but also the Winchester show.
Okay.
So you played the trickster or Archangel Gabriel in the Supernatural, and then you played, I don't remember your character in the Winchester, sorry, but I loved you in that.
Thank you.
But how was the change going from Gabriel or the trickster to that character? Was it like going to play the same character and like get a show?
Good question. Robbie Thompson, the showrunner of that show, we talked about it because we wanted to figure out, what am I playing? Which facet of the character am I playing here? And it was Loki that was in Winchester's. Which, you know, the Loki that I ended up playing in Winchester's wasn't exactly like the Loki I'd set up in Supernatural. He was a little more whimsical, like the Trickster. It was a little bit of a combo character, if you will, because they wanted to keep some of that whimsical energy from the original Supernatural show that the character had, and not play just the sort of sullen, suit-wearing Loki that we had used in Unfinished Business. So that was the challenge, to sort of bridge the two versions of the character. And I think part of that is why when you see Loki getting so mad at the Winchesters, that's more like the Loki that we saw in Unfinished Business, the more of the temper, and less able to just laugh through losing. You know what I mean? And so that was the goal when we were doing the show, was to have that character, to have Loki be the character that was interacting with the Winchester kids. And by the way, thank you. Thank you for watching the Winchesters. Thank you for enjoying the Winchesters. That's a bummer about the Winchesters, man. Shit happens. TV happens. It's an evolved world. It's more common to have shows go away than to have them stick around, as you know, of fans of TV. Something like Supernatural that lasts 15 years is an anomaly stacked on an anomaly. It just doesn't happen. Nonetheless, I'm sorry that Winchesters didn't get another crack at it. I think they were on the road to telling some great stories and doing some great work, and could have really done some interesting things. And I'm sorry, at least for now, we won't get to see that. But who knows? Maybe someday in the future, we'll be able to make it happen again. Yeah.
So I have a very serious question. If you were a color,
right?
No, I'm just joking. So one of my favorite things to do is travel, and I'm sure, especially with the conventions and everything, you've kind of been around. So do you think that there are any U.S. states that are like overrated, or a U.S. state that's underrated?
Oh, I don't think either. I think one of the great gifts of this job is being able to travel, and to travel to cities and states I would not have visited, but for the fact that work took me there. And it's not always conventions. Sometimes it's a movie or show. I shot a movie in Lee Summit, Missouri. I don't think I ever would have visited Lee Summit, Missouri without it. And I flippin' loved Lee Summit, Missouri. It was awesome. I shot a movie in Holland, Michigan. I don't think I ever would have been to Holland, Michigan, but for the fact that movie took me there. I've been to the island of Malta. I've been to, I know that's not the U.S., but I've been to some interesting places in my career because of work. And I'm a very patriotic guy. I mean, you guys may know that from following me around election time, but I'm a very patriotic guy. I believe in this country, I believe in its people, and I believe in its uniqueness, and I believe in its ability to gather together strength when need be. And I find the people of America fascinating. I find the small towns fascinating. I found the big cities fascinating. I'm from Nashville, and I'm a proud Southerner. I live in Los Angeles, California, and I'm raising 3 local Californians. My sons are born and raised there. So I'm as much now ensconced in California as I am in Tennessee, and they're dramatically different. But I find beauty in both areas. I find joy and grace and dignity and humor and strength in every city I visit, because every city is unique. Every city has its favorite coffee shop. Every city has its dialect. Every city has its high school football team. Every city has its moment, its place, its time, its feeling. And I take all that, if anything, I think traveling America and seeing the cities and states of America makes me a better American, because I feel like I'm more aware of what's going on elsewhere. I don't just sit in California or Tennessee and judge through those lenses what's happening elsewhere. There are challenges in other places. There are things that make people angry, and sometimes they react and they're angry not in a way I think they should, but it happens. I just think it's been a great education. So I don't think anything's ever overrated or underrated. I think it's always just a real privilege to be in somebody else's home, on somebody else's turf, in somebody else's world, and get to visit it for a little bit. And I get to take away a little bit of what that experience was and make it part of my daily life and all my decision making and all my worldview and all my political thinking. So I got nothing but praises for the places I've been. It's a treat.
I like your answer.
Say it again?
I like your answer. I 100% agree. That's why I asked.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Over here.
My question is, with all like the side books and stories, which all have places where they fit between episodes, what are chances of getting more of the stories in like animated form in like a season 2 of the anime?
Are you talking about Supernatural?
Yeah.
Lord, woman, I have no idea. Unfortunately, that's above my pay grade. I mean, I have no idea what they'll try to do with the universe now. You know, I know they obviously the Winchesters was an attempt to sort of keep the universe alive and do the prequel. I don't know what they will try to do with it now. I have no idea if they'll do comic books. I don't know if they'll do animated or anything. I don't know. I mean, there's certainly a wealth of stories to be told and great characters to follow, but how they decide to do it, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Let's just hope that Kripke has a good one and decides to go with it at some point. But thank you for your question. Yes.
My question was already asked, so I don't have one anymore. But if you'd like to tell me what tree you'd like to be, I'd love to know.
I already told you, dogwood.
I was taking a photo with Jared. I didn't know.
Okay, well, that's a different kind of tree. What was your question? What tree I was going to be?
Because I asked Rob a question, and he said that you love those kinds of questions.
I love the analogy questions. I think they're meaningful. I think it's a good use of time. I think they make sense, and they're grounded in a logic that I think everyone can enjoy. Which is why I always answer them so graciously. I know, Ruth ruined your joke. I mean, and I told him, I said, because the first person came up and they said, if you were, I'm like, yeah, Ruth told me. And they're like, God damn it. But not for a lack of effort, it's a great bit. Why is there a Muppet on this? Where's your microphone? Oh, stop it. Last question, since there's one more person, we'll do one last question. Oh, we have more than one, oh, fun. All right, but let's take this one.
Hello.
Don't go anywhere, we might take those questions too. I don't know, we're just killing time.
I really like knowing about the process of how someone gets into character. So did you have any like things you would do to get into your character, like music or anything you listen to?
Specifically for Supernatural, there wasn't like any specific music that I would listen to. I listen to music a lot anyway because it gives me energy and it kind of inspires me. And we have a lot of downtime between scenes. You might be sitting around for a couple hours, so to keep myself from getting sluggish, I would sometimes listen to drum-centric music that had like an island beat like this. Something like that, kind of, just to stay mellow. But maybe I need a little more rock and beat, I need a little more energy, and I might play something a little more fast tempo. And then sometimes I would just turn on the Led Zeppelin, get out Moby Dick, and just go to town. Thank you for your question. Yeah.
Now that you've made it to
Animal
season
shirtless.
4 of the show for your podcast,
Right.
is there an episode that we've all hyped up a lot that you're super looking forward to watching for the podcast?
No. But that's only because I forget what they are. What happens is I'll get to an episode, like we recently saw Yellow Fever is a season 4 show, right? We saw Yellow Fever, and we're like, oh, Yellow Fever, right. So I don't remember until I see the title. And, right, Animal? Yeah. I don't remember until I see the title, and then I don't, and so then I remember. So I don't know at the top of my head. But I'm enjoying seeing these shows. The one thing I will say, and Rob and I both said this in our podcast, I don't think Bugs is as shitty as people made it out to be. I think Bugs was, and I think the mystery ship one was shittier than people made it out to be. Thank you. No, I'm not kidding. Yeah, it's like, and that's when my father passed. And that's why cancer is a virus that'll kill us all. Come on! Thank you. Thank you for your question. You!
Okay, so my question is, I watched you in well, Band of Brothers, and how did being on a TV show kind of change what TV shows you went on afterwards?
Who's Animal nodding at? What? Animal is
Shirtless.
No, they're waving at something. I think it's definitely got Norha. Norha. It's Norha. It's the celebrity couple of Norton and Borja. Band of Brothers is an amazing experience. An amazing show to be a part of. It didn't really affect what shows I decided to do afterwards because my career is not built on deciding things. I go after jobs, and if I get them, I do them. I mean, if I don't want to, there's a couple of shows I don't want to work on, I won't go after them, but it's not I'm not at that tier where I'm just kind of sitting back and selecting. By the way, it's somebody's last day. I don't know who. You know, a lot of people died in the war, but unfortunately, whoever's working animal lived. Anyway, I love that series. I didn't ever have, it didn't really, it changed the jobs I got afterwards because it was a high-profile gig, but it didn't change my decision-making process. I just got to work on cooler things which is kind of awesome. Thank you. And last question, right here.
Hi. What's your most memorable birthday?
My most memorable, probably have several of them, but 50. And because when I turned 50, as life happens and you're raising children and you're working your jobs, I don't get to see family as much as I used to. And I grew up very close to a cousin of mine who lives in South Carolina, Tommy Friedlow. Tommy and I are a month apart in age and spend every summer together, and we're very, very close. And the older we got, the less we saw each other because he lives in South Carolina and I live in Los Angeles. He has kids, I have kids. He has a job, I have a job. So we didn't see each other much. So for our 50th birthdays, our wives spoke to each other and arranged for our families to get together and spend time with each other. So I got to know his kids, his sons. He got to know my sons a little bit. And we got to hang out, and it was really, really special and rare. And but for the fact that our wives had done that, I don't think we would have ever gotten that moment. So it was really, really, really cool. And that makes it my favorite birthday.
Adorable. Adorable. As always, people always say, who's the most adorable one? They say Richard Speight Jr. Richard Speight Jr., everybody. Now you stay.
All right, well, this is exciting because if